everybody. So my name's Chris Brick. I'm a teacher here at Lisa. I taught this verbatim class this semester. We're so excited to show you what we've been working on since September. I decided, I don't normally do this, but I feel like you're coming into, most of you, I feel like, verbatim theater pretty blindly. And so I'm just going to explain kind of like what we did this semester so you can understand the work that you're going to see in a few minutes. So basically, verbatim theater, I taught this class and we partnered, this is the third time I've taught this class, and all 3 times we have partnered with New York University. They have a sector called Verbatim Performance Lab, and we had a guest artist come in, Aggie, right here. And so she spent 10 sessions with us throughout the semester, teaching us what verbatim theater was and how to craft verbatim theater. And so verbatim means word for word. And it's not really like a super commonly used form of theater. I didn't really know much about it until I started teaching this class, and I kind of opened my eyes to like a brand new type of theater and a really like brilliant way to like show empathy within theater. So essentially, what we did was these students went out into the, we came up as 2 classes with basically essential questions. What topics do we want to cover in this play that we're going to write together? And so we decided those as a group, and then they went off into the world and found people to interview for these plays that we were going to write together. And so they conducted interviews on Zoom, and then they transcribed those interviews, and we took the words that the people that they interviewed said, and we, as a class with Aggie, kind of like cut and paste and put together a script. So the words that you're going to hear tonight are, these people are not characters, these people are real people, and these are real words that they said. And we are using those words essentially to answer the question that we were asking, the topic that we were asking. Like I said, it's not a super common form of theater. It's been done a lot. I would say mainstream, maybe you've heard of like Come From Away, the musical, or A Chorus Line is a form of verbatim theater. The Laramie Project is a play, verbatim theater. I Am My Own Wife won a Pulitzer Prize for drama and a Tony Award. It's a verbatim play. So it's not new by any means, but it's definitely not like the most common form of theater. So to be able to do this in this capacity with Aggie and with NYU has been like really, really incredible, and it's been amazing to see how we've like taken these pieces and structured it really to like hear words of people explaining these topics. So just so you understand, oh, and by the way, this whole process was done in 18 hours. That's all we had for this class, this semester, really, if you like break it down. So they went out, did these interviews, we figured out these questions, we scripted this whole thing, we blocked this whole thing in 18 hours. That's it. So that's incredible. For them, they're amazing. I'm just going to let you know what these questions that they, the topic questions that they were ultimately looking at. So the first group you're going to see is the AM class, and their overarching question was, how do established career professionals describe their career origin stories, and how do early experiences shape one's career path, if at all? So that's going to be the first one you see. We're going to take like a brief 10-minute intermission in between just so we can reset. And then the PM class will be the second act. And their question was, how has the perception of love changed throughout generations, if at all? So we're going to get the answer, hopefully, both of those tonight. Thank you for coming. We're so excited. Welcome.
focus on what you really love to do. Be passionate about what do I want to do in life. Because on average, you finish college at 25 and you work to 65. That's 40 years of your life. Every day you're going to get up and go to something called work. So be passionate. Find something that you're going to love. And if you start a career or start college into a particular field,
well, I think the time that I grew up.
Jennifer Nix, 55-year-old lesbian, married woman, professional realtor.
It really wasn't favorable, I guess. Or just like, my parents sent my brother to college, you know? And I didn't have that opportunity to go to college. And it's not that I didn't really have an opportunity. Like, my mom was like, no, just get to work.
so my parents were very strict that we would complete high school. And for them, that was an accomplishment, where they think they didn't go to high school, so we went to high school. And we finished that, and they didn't have money to help us go to college. And I came to New York, and I found out that, college would be the next step.
My mom was not a college graduate either. And my mom, honestly, always instilled in me to be the better person. She would always say, be the better person. Gives you leverage.
I know I didn't have the same guidance I needed at the time.
Susan Casey, high school English teacher.
And I think that as a mother, that was very important to me, to make sure that my girls had the same guidance.
But I didn't have any direction. I didn't have any guidance. Even though my parents were here in New York, but they didn't know anything about college, and neither did I.
So I did all that while I was a single mom, working, coaching, doing all that. And it took me 7 years to do it. And when I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to be able to get a job here, and when I was going through it, it was probably the hardest thing I ever did. I didn't realize how much I was doing, but it has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done, because I absolutely love my job. I think it's the greatest profession in the world. I just love being with people, so.
I've always loved all my jobs, but I was always working for someone else. Doesn't mean you can't be successful working for someone else, but I feel like I have the ability to make my own choices and my own decisions, and I have the ability to, foresee what my possibilities could be for me, for what I could be earning, if that makes sense.
Once you're passionate about your job, then it doesn't become work. You look forward to going every single day because you're happy. This is what you love to do.
To add to what I do, to elaborate more.
Just Hector's line.
I'm not just a computer service technician. I am an advocate. I advocate for the teachers. I advocate for the students. Whenever technology is not working right, I'm one of those people that speak up.
I was a Lindsay, 45-year-old professional female.
Sort of an administrative assistant. I figured out a whole bunch about computers and technology. I figured out how to maintain their access database, and I realized I was pretty good at it. Enjoyed that sort of thing.
I'm one of those Puerto Ricans that just doesn't stay quiet. I would have to say something, but in a nice way. I'm not rude or anything like that. It's just I can't stand injustice, if you will. Whenever I see certain boroughs having more than, or other schools having more, and I'm referring to in terms of technology because it affects how students learn.
I was figuring out how to create a rubric to analyze the schools in New York City that were the least safe. We had to figure out how to measure the safety of a school and the protocols that the school was taking.
So I think it was always just a general passion of mine.
Larry. Just Larry.
And I typically like to say that I often, people ask me why I do what I do. And it's because I get to help people grow and develop. So throughout my entire high school career, my college career, I liked giving back. I've always liked volunteering.
The meaningful part of my function is that I get to advocate for the staff, for the teachers, and ultimately for the students. It's very fulfilling. I love it. It wakes me up in the morning. I don't need an alarm. I'm up. It doesn't matter how much I rest. I look forward to it. So for 12 years now, 11, 12 years, it's just been, And I'm also a people person. I'm always how you doing? How are things going? And so they call me Mr. Customer Service, so to speak, when I go around the schools. And so I'm one of those, like I said. It goes back to the biggest thing that I do is that I advocate.
Just finding ways to give back to others, I think is important. And I think you get that in return. When you give back to others, they give to you. So it's kind of win-win, if you will. But it was really just the passion of, I love facilitating. I like being in front of people. I like helping people and seeing them grow to develop. So that's kind of where my passion has lied ever since I've been in high school.
I'm very appreciative. You go to my district. I take care of District 7, which is the bottom of the Bronx. It's about 46 schools, charter schools and juvenile centers. And I go there and basically, what's the problem? Oh, this is not working. Oh, my printer's not working. So some stuff is simple, and then we talk about other stuff at the same time, so it all comes together, because without that stuff they can't function. Or they don't function as efficient as they need to. And so that kind of takes a ripple effect. And like I said, once again, it goes back down to our students.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris Webble, 51-year-old white man.
I think it's probably not unique to me, but I think for me, listening to sort of negative thinking or fear-based thinking around not applying to certain positions or not taking risks in certain ways, or even in current roles, like sometimes sitting in meetings and I might feel like I have something valuable to add, and I don't do it because I'm afraid of maybe what people would think of what I was saying, or I think anyone that has anything to say is a value. We all have value, and we are all worthy, and we should feel comfortable to share those things. And I think in my journey, in my personal journey, is this sort of my personal journey, and is a mesh with my professional journey is these moments where I've not listened to my heart. I listened to the confusion in my head about not following what I think was, the right thing to say or to do, or, I think I mentioned before, sort of doubt creeps in and it sort of takes over sometimes, and it's, it's a sort of negative mindset or negative thinking, and, I practice a lot of mindfulness, and I'm a daily meditator for many years, and in meditation sometimes you observe your thoughts and you just realize it's thoughts. It doesn't mean anything. And there are moments now where I see those thoughts or observe those thoughts, and I go, okay, that's just a thought. This is what you want to say. And whether or not people receive that in the way I intended it to come out, or the value I feel like it has, that I have no control over that. But as a person on this earth, much like yourself, you have value to add to any experience, and you should feel comfortable and confident and worthy to do that.
It's like those montages at the beginning of a movie as a young couple starts to grow, and they get their first house, and then they have a mortgage and a baby, and so you went through that whole montage, and you're like, okay, I'm doing this like my parents did. It's working.
I had already owned my own business and managed my own business. I've already had, the paperwork aspect is easy. I'm a fast typist and a good listener, I'm persuasive, I'm a motivator, I'm always excited about anything that I do. I could not believe it, actually. Every single job that I've ever had in the past without a college degree has helped me be successful in real estate, which was, insurmountable to even think how my life kind of came full circle into what I was doing professionally.
To save up to pay for central air. It's so stupid, but to me, that was where I needed to go. We finally did. We finally did it during COVID. We saved up, we got a loan, and we paid it off, but we got central air, and it was the best thing we could have possibly done.
I want their story, their house journey, to homeownership. I want this story to be memorable. if I could be a part of that and make sure they get a good experience, that's really what's most important. And I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do.
I've always had the luxury of having good leaders who have supported me and let me do the things that I wanted to do and helped me grow and develop, which in turn helps me to help others grow and develop.
I thought I would leave, and I did. I got another opportunity somewhere, and that's right, I did it twice, but both times I really regretted it. I kind of knew from the moment I slid into the new role that it wasn't right.
I think about my role today and being with other leaders who really treat me as a consultant and really treat me as a partner. And to me, this is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to really act as that partner, right? To have that level of leadership rely on me, to talk through their talent, and just really use me as a sounding board. So I'd say probably over the last 5 years, it's kind of where I've said, okay, this is the right spot. This is where I belong, and this is what I should be doing.
I negotiated myself back to the company I worked with previously. They had a great relationship with people, and they wanted me to come back. And they call that a boomerang employee. So I boomeranged twice now, right back to where I started. But both of those were mistakes, and we all make them. But I cleaned up my own mess.
When I was younger, I was 11 years old. I was 11 and a half, and I had a brother. I had two brothers, but I had a brother who was in a freak accident, and he was electrocuted in front of our house, and he passed away. And that shaped and changed my life tremendously. I used to suffer from severe panic attack syndrome for, I would say, 30 years of my life, at least, where I just it was absolutely crippling. And I think I got in my own way for many, many years, thinking that there's certain things I could and could not do. And I really think the relationship with my wife, she is so encouraging to me and so thoughtful, and she's like my perfect person. And I feel like that's helped me tremendously, and going to therapy. I know it sounds crazy with my career and everything, but it really was so absolutely crippling with my life that I got stuck with not being able to make changes.
I didn't really know if I'd be able to do it. Tristan, 30-year-olds performing queens. It wasn't until I started saying, no, I can do this, and building that confidence and that muscle, and then finally walking into that Broadway audition saying, I am the best person for this job. And then that's kind of when the dominoes started to fall, because of my own confidence in myself and my I guess, aura that I brought into the room of, because Boop, for instance, is a $26 million musical. There's so much money put into these shows that if you're coming in and you're not memorized, your work is sloppy, it's not specific, they're not going to pay you. They're not going to feel like they can trust you. So I think
once I got a handle on the anxiety in some ways, and with real estate, it was frightening because I have to be on the road. I don't have a choice. And there were certain situations I didn't like being, and I would hold myself back.
I think the confidence is key, and whatever that means, finding your confidence, right? If that's, I have to do a warm-up, I have to see my voice teacher, I have to take a yoga class, whatever that means for you.
But I think having that belief in myself and being encouraged by my therapist and even my real estate coach has helped me shed those fears and become, just become my true authentic self and more free of fear.
But being able to walk in and being super confident is key. And I think that's with any job, really, preparation. What did one of my teachers say? Be prepared to be lucky. I think that's a lot. That's like so much of my career. Being prepared to be lucky and doing the work before.
I still have fears, I still have anxiety, you know? But I think that's just who I am as a person, and I feel that I can truly say I'm proud of myself for all that I've come through.
Okay.
Mina Zada, 75 years old, from Tehran, Iran.
My name is Minuzadeh. My maiden name is Minu Saebi. I'm 75 years old and I'm from Tehran, Iran. Right now I'm retired, but still I am a jewelry seller. Okay, my first job was when I was 18 and I was in London, so I started nursing, and after that I just wanted to be a stenographer. So I went to Pitman College in London for 2 years and I became a stenographer. Okay. At the beginning, I told you it started with nursing, and then I was a stenographer, and then from London we came to the United States, and then I had my first child at the age of 23. And I started being at home, taking care of my kids, and now I have 3 kids, and they're all grown up, and that's it. Did I answer your question? I mean, I always wanted to go to college and have a good career, but since I got married at a young age and we went to England, so that affected the way of thinking that I always loved jewelry from a young age. And I always wanted to be in that business. I loved that profession, and when I got older and my kids were gone, so I could just buy and sell, so I started, dealing jewelry online. I really have no regret coming to that, no regrets, no. I mean, I wish I had started it earlier. I wish I started it earlier. Yes, it's fun. It's money-making, and I have a passion for it. I always had a passion for it. So, yeah. When we came to the United States, we struggled at the beginning, and then very shortly after, we hit it high. And then, I could see the success coming towards us, but we worked very hard. Yeah, I mean, we both worked very hard. It wasn't only me. As I told you before, I wouldn't change anything. I'm very happy where I am. Yeah, and I'm very happy where I am. Yeah, I'm very happy to be a mom at home, taking care of my kids, and that's the biggest achievement of my life. To be a good mom, and my 3 girls, they're all successful. They're educated and they have their own family. I'd never get married at a young age. I would have waited. I would have gone to college, had my career, and then get married. If I wanted to get married at that time, not at the age of 18. That's it. Very good.
My first job ever, LDR, 50-year-old white female. My first job ever, I worked at a collection agency that my aunt worked for in the filing room. There was a place in offices in the 90s and early 2000s where paper still existed, and you used to have to organize and find things for accounts and stuff, so I was in the filing room. I was a retail girl. I worked for the Gap and Guess and Aeropostale and stuff like that. And I was on a second interview with Coach in Rockefeller Center, and I was walking back to Penn Station, and I heard my name on the street. Someone just screamed my name, and I turned around, and it was my very close friend Mike, who was just standing outside on a break from his office job. We got to talking. He made fun of me because I was wearing a suit. He was like, "What are you wearing?" And I said, "I was just on a second interview. I'm on my way back." I'm walking to Penn Station to get on the train, and he's like, "Well, we need somebody. We lost somebody last month. Like, do you want to come upstairs and meet everybody?" I went, "Yeah, why not?" And I walked upstairs. I had no idea what the company did. I had no idea who they were. And like 7 people interviewed me and asked me weird questions like, "Are you a Mets or a Yankees fan?" Is a lot 1 or 2 words? Like, those were my interview questions. And at the end of it, they hired me on the spot, and I filled out the paperwork, and that was 19 years ago. It was a fluke, Paula. It was a fluke. Like I said, I had no idea. I was a retail girl. I wore heels 10 hours a day, and I ran around a store for forever, and like, my friend made me come upstairs, and I was like, sweet, an office job. I don't have to do all that anymore.
And I learned a lot about cable advertising. That's how I got here. But I had no idea what the hell it was prior. I had no idea. I don't think I would change anything. I don't think I would change anything because, again, I've worked for the same company for 19 years. I've known these people for 19 years.
I wanted to go to college so bad. You know,
Nick, Latino, male, 50 years old, school social worker, born in Brooklyn, currently lives in Bayshore.
because, again, my growing up was tough. I grew up in my family grew up in the same house as my grandmother, and I grew up in a basement, so it was this small space. I could not wait to get the hell out of there. I just couldn't wait. And I ended up going to a college that was local. It wasn't even like I went away, but I was able to stay in school. I went to New York Tech, which was right in Central Islip at the time. They had a campus here.
I knew in high school that I wanted to teach.
Brian Simonelli.
I thought that for sure this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah, so I wanted to be an English teacher, a high school English teacher. That's at least what I thought I wanted to be.
A really cool professor of mine, Mr. Malley, he said, don't go to school for teaching, go to school for a degree, get a degree, and then you can always go back. Because, especially in New York, you need to have your master's degree to teach.
In my junior year of college, I decided I didn't want to teach kids anymore. And I said, well, what do I do? So I decided to finish up my bachelor's in English. And I always say, if you're familiar with the play Avenue Q, it opens with the song, what do you do with a BA in English? So that's what I said. What do I do with a BA in English?
So I went and got my art education degree. I got my graphic design degree while I was playing baseball. And then for the next several years, just kind of bummed around, trying to get on any team that I could after college, played in a couple of different organizations, went to tryouts and did all that kind of stuff like that.
And my mom was really strict, so I wasn't allowed to go out. I'm a transgender man, so at the time I identified as female. I presented as female, so my mom was extra strict, Coming from a Puerto Rican family as well, it's next level. You know how Latino families deal with women. It's just crazy how they deal with the dynamics. So when I got to college, I OD'd, right? I was like, this was the first time I had freedom, and I just lost it, right? I was just like, I'm gonna do all the things, and instead of kind of trying to find the balance, I just went, full out, and I think in 4 semesters I managed to get 9 credits, which is insane. And then I ended up losing my scholarship, and I had to leave.
And then finally, my career ended. I hurt my shoulder and I couldn't play anymore.
I really liked teaching people. I liked education, but I just didn't want to teach kids.
But I was resilient enough that I was able to get a job and start to work, and and from that point forward in my life, I've never been unemployed. I was always a hustler. I was always able to take care of myself.
So for a year, I was working, making musical equipment. I was hand making all this different gear for different bands and stuff throughout the country. And I had a musical background. I was in bands and stuff in college as well as playing baseball. And then, on a whim, one of my wife's coworkers was like, hey, there's a job in Jericho. I think you'd be perfect for it. You should apply. I did, and then in a couple of months, I was hired, and I've been here ever since. This is my 11th year in the district.
So my last job before my current job was working at a company called OpenLink Financial. They were an energy trading and risk management firm. Very exciting training software, technology software. I did that for about 8 years, made my way through that organization, but really missed the leadership side of training. And that's what brought me to my current role at Henry Schein, where I'm really guiding leaders and talking about strategy around the talent on their teams, and then helping people grow and develop. So that's kind of my background.
Like, it's so crazy how the psyche works, but yeah, so I was able to, keep moving and push forward, like, as I've learned in my old age, everything happens for a reason. And, everything happens the way, God plans them.
I love it. It's the best job in the world.
That's a good question. I have talked a lot about my parents being teachers. I think it would be more of a what for me. I think like any young person, I had challenges growing up. I had challenges, emotional challenges. Sometimes my parents had some difficulties in their marriage at times. I had a friend group that sometimes struggled with certain things in their family circles. And I think that was the biggest impact for me in choosing, I think I want to help people with their problems, is that I often found myself to be the person that my friends were coming to, usually about breakup issues, like girlfriend and boyfriends, the relationship issues. And I would listen to them, and I would, just be there for them and hold space for them and try to be empathize with them and be compassionate to what they were going through. And, that felt good personally. It felt really good. So I could tell you that I did it because I was helping you, but it felt like, wow, this feels good for me to help others, and it sounds like it's the right thing for me to do. And that's sort of why I went down the path. I went for school counseling, and I found an educational leadership that I'm off to doing the same thing, but in a different capacity. So,
My junior high school psychologist, this is a story I tell all the time, ad nauseum, unfortunately, but he was the guy that cracked down on me. He was a guy that no matter how hard I tried not to talk, he was the guy that kept pushing. And not hardcore, right? He wasn't like somebody who was always beating down on me, but he never gave up. And I say often, it was, he had this really, really small office, and kind of like the office I have now. It was really tiny and without a window too. And he had a chair right next to his desk, and I would sit there, and every week he would call me down, and I'd sit there, and I wouldn't talk, and but he would never not call me down. And he waited me out. This is before computers, right? So it wasn't like he had work he could do and stuff like that, but he just wait me out. And then one day I just can't remember the exact issue I had, but I just busted out. Something had happened, and I was upset, and I needed to let it go, and I finally felt safe enough to let that happen. And from that day forwards, I never was scared to let that stuff go. I don't want to say never, but it was less scared of letting stuff go, and he became one of my favorite people in the entire world. And to this day, him and I speak. Him and I go to lunch at least once a month, and we talk all the time. And God bless him, he's still alive, right? And he's still doing well. But he's probably the one of the people that really inspired me to get into this work.
I've been in finals for Bad Cinderella, my original Broadway show, my Broadway debut, and I really, really, really wanted to be on Broadway. I just wanted to be on Broadway and have that stamp and have Broadway on my resume. But another audition came through, and it was for the lead for the Pretty Women National Tour. So I'd already gotten an offer for Bad Cinderella and the principal role of Vivian. Okay, so the Julia Roberts character came in my email to audition for it, or I think I was already previously in callbacks for it, and so I had a final callback for Pretty Women on the national tour, and I decided not to go because I just wanted to be on Broadway. That was my be-all, end-all in that moment. But sometimes I wonder what sometimes I wonder what my career path would have been if I did go for that final callback, and I booked it. Who's to say? I still could have gone and not gotten it, but I wonder if my path would have been different if I had booked that role. Because sometimes you just need to book a role to be seen for the next role and the next role, but again, I don't think it was the wrong decision, because it was my first Broadway show. I met some of the greatest friends who I'm still friends with today, and ultimately I was in Manhattan, ready for the next Broadway show audition, which was my second Broadway show. So I don't think there's ever a right or wrong path. There's just your path, and no one's journey is going to look the same.
I will tell you, like, my whole life going back, I always wanted to be a baseball player. And when that fell through, I was like depressed. I don't think I left my room for like 3 months. And I remember just telling my parents and anybody who was like, I don't want to be a regular person. And that sounds terrible. Like, I didn't want to be a regular person. I always felt like I was, I don't know if it was just from like my parents telling me, because you know your parents tell you like, oh, you can do anything you want to do, whatever. But I always felt like I was. This sounds so horrible. I felt like I was destined for better things than some stupid desk job somewhere in a cubicle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just didn't want that for myself. And I was sitting there after the baseball thing that didn't work out, and I'm thinking, like, this is where I'm going to be. Like, I had turned down graphic design jobs out of out of college, and because, like, that wasn't the life I wanted. And here I am now, like, I'm faced with the reality of, like, I'm not going to do this baseball thing anymore. And I was just shot. When I got my job at Westbury, it was great, but it didn't feel real yet because I didn't have my own space. I didn't have anything. I was teaching part-time. It was a nice little gig, but it was essentially like I could have made the same money working at Starbucks. So, like, it didn't feel there. But when I walked into my classroom, my first elementary school classroom, and this was my classroom. Now, that was freaking cool. Like, that was super cool. Like, I felt like I'm going to be able to do some really awesome things. And, you know, and then it's been a lot of stuff like confirming that as time has gone on. You know, getting tenure was huge, that you feel like you make it again. Like, this is it, I got tenure.
When I got tenure as an assistant principal at Legal Elementary, so it was only 6 months ago. So it was in the backdrop of me getting tenure was this interview process for the high school vice principal position. So I was internally torn. I had a building, an elementary school building full of teachers who adored me. You know, I have special relationships with them, and families and students in the building who really liked me there. And the night that I was appointed or granted tenure, at Legal Elementary as an assistant principal, there was, I want to say, about 50 teachers that showed up on their own time. They had giant cutout pictures of me. They had signs. I have videos and stuff that they, you know, when they voted for me, the board voted for me and appointed me tenure.
And then, like, the district kind of green-lighted me to do all of the projects that we do and giving me permission to do these things. Like, you know, the astrophotography field trip, you know.
You know, those people stood up, and I started crying. I was emotional. It was a very powerful moment. And then to hear some of the board members' comments, and one of the board members said, it's, you know, it says a lot about you, Mr. Webble, that you're, you know.
Giving me, like, trusting me to take you guys out into the middle of nowhere at 11 o'clock at night. Like, that's awesome. Like, I don't, you know.
You have tears rolling down your face, and look at all these people that are here, supporting you, who you are. So that was a really powerful moment of acknowledging, wow, I did a lot of work, and I made it.
But, yeah, this feels like when I got here, it felt like home. And it felt like, you know, I'd arrived, and this was the bigger thing that I thought was being a baseball player. But this was the bigger thing, and it's great.
But then at the same time, which was difficult for some of the teachers of the elementary school to understand, but they allowed me the space to explain to them that there's still more work to be done. And I feel like, you know, stepping into the role of the high school, I have the opportunity to do that. So
that'll make your life happier. You're not going to be stressed on the job because I enjoy this. This is what I want to do. So you're never not going to be satisfied on the job because this is what you love to do. And when you love it, you get up in the morning and you look forward to going because you're excited. Whether you're a teacher and you want to see the kids, or you're a nurse and you want to help someone sick today. Whatever your field is, you want to do it and love it from your heart.